A Chinese lab with COVID-infected mice discovered in California. A zoo in China is accused of using humans dressed up as bears, and China is no longer the United States' biggest trading partner. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. You know, I really thought I'd seen it all when it came to China faking stuff. Fake Nikes, Pizza Hat, KFD, Sunbucks Coffee, McDonald's, competent leadership. You name it, if there's a good brand out there, China will find a way to make a knockoff. So maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that a Chinese zoo is now having to deny that its bears are really just people in costumes.
Rumors and conspiracy theories have been swirling on social media after a viral video of a sun bear standing on its hind legs, looking uncannily human and appearing to wave at the crowd. Its fur appears loose and wrinkled in places, almost like an ill-fitting bear suit.
Wouldn't be the first time. By the way, you can buy that on a t-shirt over at ChinaUncensored.tv/merchandise. But looking at the bear from the back makes it even more uncanny valley. That bear's got more sag going on than a teenager from the 90s. The zoo released a statement saying that its small size and mannerisms were due to it being a sun bear, which is different than the much larger American black bear. Chinese state media also quoted an employee saying that human beings wouldn't last even a few minutes in a fursuit in that 100-degree heat. They've obviously never been to a furry convention in Florida. Other zoos and animal experts said the bears were in fact real. The Paradise Wildlife Park in the UK put out this footage of a sun bear standing on its hind legs and playing, saying the mannerisms are more human than other bears. However, this wouldn't be the first time Chinese zoos have come up with some, shall we say, creative substitutes for exotic animals. In 2017, tourists flocked to this zoo in Yulin City to see extremely rare penguins from the South Pole, only to find inflatable ones. In 2013, a Henan zoo tried to pass off a Tibetan Mastiff as a lion. Unfortunately for the zoo, the lion started barking at visitors.
Now, without warning or explanation, the zoo had replaced many of the fearsome animals with tamer substitutes. Foxes were standing in for leopards, rats were found in the snake cage, and more dogs were found in the wolf enclosure.
So just bear that in mind the next time you're at a Chinese zoo and you see a lion barking. It might not actually be a lion. Speaking of shady business practices, a black market biolab linked to China was uncovered in California this week. Investigators found coronaviruses, HIV, hepatitis, and herpes in the lab, as well as hundreds of mice genetically engineered to catch and carry COVID-19. COVID-19 positive lab mice surrounded by HIV and herpes? Man, this sounds like the darkest episode of Pinky and the Brain of all time.
In December 2022, the city of Reedley contacted Fresno County with concerns about Prestige Biotech after a water hose was seen drilled through the side of a wall. The department tried to reach the owner of Prestige Biotech for answers.
They were either not responding, not providing correct information, or just entirely misrepresenting information.
One of the few pieces of information the company gave was that it was developing diagnostic testing kits. The company behind the lab is called Prestige Biotech. It's a Chinese medical company registered in Nevada. It was reportedly storing tons of hazardous waste, but never contracted with a licensed medical waste hauler to dispose of it. Over 5,000 gallons of biological waste was later removed from the lab. And as you can imagine, the mice weren't treated well either. Investigators found over 900 mice living in squalid conditions, including without food or water. Almost 200 were already dead. When asked what they were going to do next, one mouse said, "The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to get rid of these herpes." Can solar panels be considered green if they're made with coal power? Well, one nonprofit says the United Nations is grossly underestimating the carbon footprint of solar panels made in China. It says Chinese solar panels are 3 times more carbon intensive than the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change claims they are. That's because China relies heavily on coal for its electricity. No wonder the CCP's so naughty, they're just trying to get Santa to hook them up with more coal. And it's building new coal plants faster than you can say, climate change disaster, here we come. According to Environmental Progress, a lot of the data used to determine how much carbon is going into the panels is based on data supplied by industry. And in at least one major database used for these calculations, there was no data for China. Zilch, nada, nothing. I'm sure that was just an accidental oversight though. I mean, when has China ever tried to cover something up? Because of that, modelers are estimating the carbon emissions of solar production as if the panels are still mostly made in the West, which drastically skews the data. So yeah, when China talks about its green development goals, just know what they really mean is this kind of green. Taiwan's cabinet is proposing a 7.5% increase to its 2024 defense budget. If it's approved, that would bring the defense budget up to roughly $14 billion. In response to this, America's military budget said, you gotta bump up those numbers, those are rookie numbers. Now you might think that any increase in the defense spending would go to mainly buying more weapons or recruiting more soldiers, since, China threatened to use military force to take over Taiwan more often than Pikachu says Pikachu. But no, according to Taiwan News, the increase would go to social welfare, followed by education, science, and culture. Culture? What, is that like code for increasing these military art installations or something? The US has agreed to give Taiwan a $345 million military aid package. Because like they said, gotta bump up those numbers. Two US defense officials told the Associated Press that it includes man-portable air defense systems, intelligence and surveillance capabilities, firearms, and missiles. So is that why Taiwan's increased defense budget isn't going towards weapons? They're just counting on the US to provide them? I've heard of sugar daddies, but never bullet daddies. Now I ain't saying they're a gold digger, but they ain't messing around with no unarmed... Never mind. Unlike weapons Taiwan has ordered in the past, which have sometimes been delayed by years, these weapons will come from US stockpiles, so they're ready to deploy immediately. China said the additional weapons wouldn't deter it from invading and that it would only turn Taiwan into a powder keg. Yes, and China's not afraid of lighting a match under it. And after the break, Hong Kong is afraid of a song. Welcome back. You know a government is really insecure when it's afraid of people hearing a song. Unless it's Baby Shark, then I completely understand. Never again. Please, never again. Hong Kong's government has asked a court to issue an injunction against the protest song Glory to Hong Kong. The song became the anthem of the 2019 anti-government protests, which is why the Hong Kong government wants it to disappear. A lawyer for the Hong Kong government said it had subversively been used to stir up emotions. Unfortunately for the government, the Hong Kong court actually rejected its request, saying banning the song was overboard and could have a chilling effect on free speech. The judge also questioned the effectiveness of issuing an injunction. That's because Hong Kong already has criminal laws on the books that it's used to penalize people for distributing or broadcasting the song. And the criminal penalties have had an effect. The song has already been dropped from platforms like iTunes and Spotify. Google asked the government to provide proof that the song was illegal before agreeing to remove it, which is how the request for an injunction came about. As of this recording, Google hasn't commented on the case. But given the court's ruling, it seems unlikely it will change its mind. That is, until it gets offered some of that sweet, sweet Chinese money. And speaking of sweet, sweet Chinese money, the US isn't seeing as much of it these days. Or maybe more accurately, China isn't seeing as much US money. That's because Mexico has replaced China as America's largest trading partner. The Dallas Fed said the dynamic changed in 2018 when the US imposed tariffs on China's goods and with subsequent pandemic-era supply chain disruptions that altered international trade and investment flows worldwide. The change also coincided with a rise in manufacturing in Mexico, so America might finally be distancing itself from China. And it's about time, but honestly, this is a little bit bittersweet. Because now, where will Americans be able to get all these high-quality knockoffs? And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. When you go online, everything you do is being tracked and logged by the websites you visit and by your internet service provider, and in many cases, by your government. That's why no matter where you live or what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN. And now Surfshark has servers you can connect to in over 100 countries. That's more than any other VPN, so that makes your connection faster and more reliable. Plus, Surfshark has top-of-the-line encryption and a no-logs policy, meaning they don't collect your browsing data. In fact, Surfshark was rated Editor's Choice for the best VPN for privacy and security by PC Mag. So check out Surfshark. With just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. Try it out now. Surfshark has a special deal that includes 83% off a 2-year plan plus 3 extra months for free. You can protect yourself for just $221 a month. So go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code uncensored to secure this deal. The link is in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.